I want to say first to give my thanks to Pastor Pam for inviting me to come today and to offer the Word of God to family and friends. It's been over 3 years since I stood here, and believe me, I've missed it. In all of church life, with the people and the administration and the counseling and the visiting and all that goes on, though I do miss people, believe me, of all of it, I miss the preaching. And when Pam asked me if I would preach, I said, well, if I haven't forgotten how, I would love to do that this morning. So here we are, and I ask that the Lord accept the meditations of my heart and the words of my mouth, that they might be pleasing unto Him. I begin by posing a question. And the question is, do we need God in 2012? Now, before we just say yes as a blanket yes, I think we have to define something here. And I think that is God a given, a reality in our lives, or is God just an assumption? Is God real? Or do we assume that God is real? Do we think that maybe there's a God? Or is there a God and we know that there's a God because we have a relationship with that God? Is God real? All right, let's talk personally. Is God real to you? Is God real to you individually? I think so. I know personally God is real to me. And I want just to take an aside here just for a moment to, a little longer than a moment, to share with you. I've not had time, or an opportunity I should say, to share with all of you what has happened over the last 3 years. And so many of you have been asking what's going on and what's going on. October of 2008, as you know, my health went from pretty good to pretty nothing, actually. And I was ultimately had to be put on disability. And we moved from here to Hiawassee, Georgia. And almost no sooner than we moved there, I had a heart attack. Well, in the course of time up there, I ended up with 3 heart attacks and had a pacemaker put in. During that time, I had COPD, and it got worse. I had an adult onset of epilepsy and started having seizures. I had to stop driving, couldn't drive for over 2 years. My equilibrium was really bad. I've had 5 neck surgeries. I've had 2 bouts of MRSA, with the last one keeping me in the hospital for 2 weeks, at which time I almost died. I got to the point that I thought I was. Sometimes it's a foggy dreams, and sometimes it's just so painful that I don't want to remember. But there have been 2 very positives and 2 very stable things in my life. First and foremost, there's been God, and I want to talk about that in just a minute. And the other is my wife, Pat. Pat's my hero. Now, she's been my wife for 45 years. She's been my friend, and she's been my lover for 45 years. But today, Pat is my hero. For 3 years, Pat has taken care of me. When I got to the point that I couldn't drive, she took me everywhere I had to go. She drove me to the hardware store. She drove me to the barber shop. She drove me to doctor's appointments. And let me tell you about doctor's appointments. Shirley told me out in the lobby this morning, she said, you know, doctor's appointments are the social life of the old. And I have really, really come to appreciate that over time. Oh, my goodness. Where we live in Hiawassee, Georgia, other than our primary care physician, there's really not much health care there. So you have to drive. Brother, do you have to drive? You either go down to Gainesville, Georgia, which is a pretty big medical center, where a lot of my specialists were, and some good things happened there, and some bad things happened there. And my first neck surgery was there. It went wrong, and then I developed MRSA the first time while I was there, and it went worse. And so we came home, and the stuff they had done to my neck began to fail, and a lot of stuff went on. So we decided not to go back to that particular surgeon. And Pat, again, got on online and started checking hospitals and medical care, and she ended up getting a hold of Duke University over in Durham, North Carolina, and made an appointment, and we drove 6 hours. I ended up being in the hospital in Duke 4 different times. Had doctor's appointments every month, sometimes twice a month, in Duke. And she drove back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. The Highway Patrol recognized that red truck and would just turn their heads, you know. There go the Langfords, you know. It was, but she was my hero. And all the pain and all the struggles, the last bout of MRSA, when I was in the hospital for 14 days and almost died, changed my life. I want to tell you, it changed my life. Not only did I lose 60 pounds over this battle, but it made me realize that God is real. And He's real in Tom's life. He's real in Tom's life. It made me realize how dependent I am on God, how needy I am of God. And it also gave me something that I had lost, perhaps never had, that Pat touched on with me the other day. That I have a greater appreciation for life than maybe I've ever had. And that greater appreciation comes from a greater need of God. So do we need God in 2012? I don't know about you. But me, oh baby, I need God in 2012. I need Him. So we're going to talk personally this morning. Nothing here general. And even the scriptures that we'll read, though they speak in a general sense, they're going to be directed personally. Okay? They're going to be directed personally. Last night was New Year's Eve. Did you watch any of the celebrations on TV? Look at New York City and the ball coming down and about 40 gazillion people crammed into Times Square and hardly have enough room to inhale and exhale because there was such a crush of people. Well, as it does on every other day, on January the 1st of each year, beginning in the South Pacific, the sun lights the world. S-O-N. The sun lights the world, continent to continent. And as the sun passes its light to us, to you, and to me, we also must pass the witness of the light of the world, the light of Christ. We celebrated his birth last week, did we not? His name is what? Jesus. Isaiah in the 9th chapter says, behold, the people who walk in darkness have what? Seen a great light. And that great light is Jesus. In John, the 8th chapter and the 12th verse, Jesus says these words, I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world, he says. The sun provides light. The sun gives off light. So do all these Christmas decorations that we see. But Jesus says, I, him, am the light of the world. Not of a part of the world. Not for a race, particular race of the world. Not for a particular ethnicity of the world. He says, I am the light of the, meaning all of the world. John 3:16. Say it with me. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but what? Have everlasting life. I am the light of the world. Jesus coming, the presence of Jesus, the shining of the light of the world would benefit all people. All people. Not just the Jew, though he himself was a Jew. But his coming and his presence would benefit everybody. Everybody. In Luke, the 2nd chapter, in the Christmas story, there is also an indication that Jesus came from all people, or for all people. It's in the 10th verse of the 2nd chapter. An angel is talking, and he says, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You know, there's always hope. What is it that our grandson got a Thomas the Tank or Thomas the Train video, and the videos that keep saying, you know, even if you don't succeed, what? Don't give up hope. Don't be afraid. The angel says, don't be afraid. Look, I bring to you good news. Wonderful, joyous news for what? All people. Jesus came for all people. And the Christmas story again shows how Jesus came for the Jew. But he came for the heavenlies. And he came for what's very important to you and me. Very important for you and me. He came for the Gentile. So Jesus came for all the world. His light is eternally important to us. Take just a minute and look at the characters, because I don't believe we can begin a new year without at least looking at where it begins with the birth of Jesus. Let's see who came and worshiped him on that Christmas. On that Christmas, as we get ready to go into the new year. The angels came. They came and they worshiped Jesus. They heralded him. They sang. They offered verbal praise. He came